Alright, so it's time to secure all this equipment against forces from crashes, which means that most of this energy, when this thing hits the ground, all this gear is going to want to go flying forward. Alright? And so we just want to keep it from doing that. And the other thing that we're going to do is make sure that these servo leads are not so long that they can get drawn back into the prop, okay, and get cut. All of these things have happened. Alright. Just because it's getting visually noisy, I'm going to clean up the zip tie situation here. So I like to use these end cutters or nippers for trimming things. If you've got a pair, it's great. Side cut pliers are great too. It's a little harder to use these. You can do it. Just be super careful, because what happens is you get a little excited and all of a sudden you end up clipping a servo wire. And it tends to interrupt the momentum of the build, as it were. Alright, so you're going to cut these, make sure everything's pretty nice and snug. You might want to leave yourself a little extra to pull with to pull with pliers if you need to later. And so I give myself maybe about a 1/4 inch if I'm not sure what's going to happen. So we go here. Oops. Let's give them a good tug before you cut them. Sure, everything looks good. Check on the other side too. If they're nice and flush like that, you got them tight. Trim these down. These down. Remember, try to keep your build neat. Don't let these zip ties get underfoot or out of the... I tend to be a sloppy builder. Let stuff get out of hand, and I always regret it. Neatness counts. The best builders, the best hobbyists I've ever seen, always tend to be extremely neat and thorough, and I endeavor to be like them. Yeah, just a little more. Yeah, there we go. It's annoying. Okay. So we have removed the extraneous zip ties, and we're now going to secure the material, all these things, against forward accelerated motions. All right. Now, one cool way that I've seen, that I learned from the Make Magazine folks, they came up with it on their build, is, so if we let's start with this. I want to know where the components have to be in order for them to all connect. We have the major components here, and what I'm going to do is put the Velcro on now so that I know where the battery goes. So I'm going to extract the battery pack over here, and depending on how you feel about branding, you can go up or down with that. I don't really like branding, so I try to, if this label is super loose, try to peel it up, because it'll be a weak point in the overall situation. That'll give it up in some moment when you don't want to lose that Velcro. By convention, at the Brooklyn Aerodrome, we fly with the fuzzy or loop side on the battery pack. So you can just sort of measure that real quick. No sense making that bigger than it needs to be. All right, trim it. All right, this will go onto the battery. All right, and then the hook side, we're just going to put on the front, very front of our deck. You can put it here too if you're going to have experimental CGs, and put night flying gear here or anything like that. That's why we have it. But for our builds, this is a great spot for it. All right. So we take this and loosen her up, and just put it right on the end. All right. So this is where this battery pack starts life, is here, and we need to make sure everything connects, so that, because we don't want to put a secure component where it can't actually do its job. All right, so one of my, actually one of the test builders came up with this great, I usually put the receiver right here in the middle here, because I figure it's most protected and stuff like that. But I'm getting more interested in having it off to the side, just because it's clearer, it's cleaner, it's a little easier to deal with. Just have everything kind of on its own. And it may, I don't know if there's any interference possibilities off of this, but having the receiver in there, I'm starting to reconsider. So I've got the receiver kind of where I think it can be. I know I can connect to everything. That needs some adjustment. That needs a little adjustment. The speed controller, I'm going to plan on going kind of like, right here's a nice spot for it. I like that spot. And then I know I can connect to the battery pack, because that's going to go here. And that all looks like that's my basic plan for how I'm going to secure everything. This doesn't do anything unless you're going to power night flying gear. You don't use this at all. People try to actually connect this to the receiver. That would be well, probably result in some destroyed receiver. and maybe battery pack 2, who knows. So this doesn't do anything when we're flying. All right, so I've got a basic outline of what I want to do. Now I'm just going to firm it up with some zip ties. So I'm going to, a great way to work with these receivers is you notice that there's a bump right here if you have this style of top plug receiver. Put a single zip tie right there and you are good to go. That will resist all those forward crashing forces. So we get out our little puncher doodle, and I'm going to move this over far enough so I'm not going to get super worried about length there. Okay, and I'm going to do that there and that there. All right, and just sort of one component at a time. We're gonna secure them solidly. And people spend a lot of time worrying about this, trying to make perfect, stuff like that. This is one of the slower parts of our classes. People figuring out how to secure all these deck components. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just make sure things are gonna, fit and not gonna go flying when you crash. And you're gonna crash. So I crash, right? I've been doing this forever. Okay, good. That's nice. That's solid. That's not going anywhere. Okay. The antenna needs to be secured as well, all right? And I tend to sort of put it off to the side like this because it's, I just sort of want it away from things. It needs to be able to get clear signal. So I typically just use a pair of zip ties here for this style of antenna. Put one here, and actually I made a mistake. I'm going to move it over a little bit. Well, looks like my deck's going to get some extra holes in it. Oh my God. That's not going to be a problem. These things are tough. I've got some old decks that must have 100 holes punched in them from various things that I've tried and whatnot. So that's there. Alrighty. One here. So I'm doing it on both sides of this particular antenna because I don't want that thing going anywhere. If that antenna gets ripped off, it's really a mess. I don't know if they can be reattached. I have never repaired an antenna that's gotten ripped off. It's a coax kind of cable, kind of soldering job, and I don't know how to work with that. I'm sure it can be repaired, but why don't you just not have the antenna get ripped off in the first place? Okay, good. So we've got the antenna secured, we have the receiver secured. Next up, let's try to figure out where we want the speed controller to go. So notice there's a rough side and a smooth side of the speed controller. This smooth side gets airflow to keep cool. So what I think I want to do is I'm just going to put it right here, because why I like putting it there is that these wires here are, I don't have to do much with them. I just, maybe I'll put a zip tie to hold them down there, but they're good to go. So I am going to put one there, one there. And this will also be a good example deck for showing the Alright, so that's the speed controller attached. Sorry, my memory card filled up, so you can see me do it, but I think you get the idea. Let's clean this up a little more, just for visual clarity. If I'm building fast for myself, I don't do this, but I'm building slow for you guys, so you understand. And again, be careful. I'm going to cut a wire by mistake. Alright, we're almost done. So we have these servo leads that have to be dealt with. This one's definitely going to get drawn back into the prop. This one could. I'm going to want to secure it anyway. So I'll show you two tricks. One, which I think is just one of the coolest things, which I did not invent, and I'm jealous that I didn't, was from the Make guys that did the test build for the Make magazine article that we had. And what they did was this: they took the servo wire, put a little slit here, just right there in the coroplast, and ran the servo wire underneath the deck. So there's a slit there, and I want a slit right next to the receiver here. Just a little one, just enough big enough for that servo lead to get through. Get it straight. And as soon as I can get that, there we go. It's a little too small on the other side. Just kind of wrestling with it a little too much. Don't wrestle with things. Just fix them, make them right. Even if you're kind of on TV. Okay, so that's that hole there going, and then this is going to make the journey underneath the deck. It's not, you know, lay it flat. You might even want to put some tape on there, which I'll probably will. No, actually I won't, because if I ever have to replace this servo, I'm going to want to be able to pull that wire out. And if I put tape on there, I'll have to tear the deck off to get the wire pulled out. So, and servos do strip, and they do need to be replaced in the field occasionally. Okay, so it turns out I was a little too far over when I tried to run it underneath. So I'm just going to move it over one, you know, by an inch and redo it. It's not a huge issue. You know, generally I'm always trying something different on every build a little bit, just experiment. And, you know, builds are different, and you will make mistakes, you know, little things you have to recover from. And fortunately, the design is very robust in the face of that. So we now need to redo the cut that we made before, right here next to the receiver. There too. And run this bad boy back. I've probably built probably more than 100 of these. Still make mistakes. Alright, so this is going to go into channel 3. Channel 2, sorry. Yeah. So the left servo, looking this way, so that's the left servo, it's going to go into channel 2. And we want to keep that channel mapping if you're using our programming. If you use your own programming, do whatever you want, but it's fairly standard. Okay, that's connected. Now for the other side, we're going to just use a different technique just to show you, which is you take this excessive servo lead, right, and you just wrap it a bunch of times around your finger, and you need to wrap it. You can't. A lot of people try to just sort of fold it on itself, and that generally is not a successful strategy because what happens is it loosens up over time. Also, taping does not work particularly well. That's not a successful strategy. Put it like that with that looped, and then we're going to run the zip tie around that. And that's nice and secure. That's not going to go anywhere. And then we just put that into channel 1 again. Alright, and this can go back into channel 3. Clean things up. Careful not to cut those servo wires again. And we have a fully secured deck.